Peace, family. I know who it is. It's Dr. Bakar K. Lumumba, the progenitor of LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. Back once again in conjunction, of course, with Bequaline Network, the Pan African social media extraordinaire, and the home of African centered news and information. And we have a great show for you all this afternoon, family, where we're going to be discussing Barack Obama, former President Barack Obama, the first, of course, Black president of the United States of America, 44th president of the United States. Of course, he stated on his wife's, Michelle Obama's podcast, the former First Lady of the United States of America, also known as FLOTUS, that he believed that Black boys should have LGBTQ plus mentors. So we're going to kind of do a deeper dive, ask that question, is he right? And then, of course, provide a Black masculinist review or critique of former President Obama's statements. Once again, family, if you're watching, make sure you like, subscribe, share, hit the thumbs up button, and hit that notification bell. If only Obama would find somewhere to go, sit down and shut up. Okay, Snapchat reviews. I see you're already in the building. Appreciate you. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. And make sure that, of course, you share as well. Also, family, if you could be a blessing to the show, that's always greatly appreciated. You can make sure that you hit us up at the Venmo at B Lumumba, of course, Cash App at Lumumba Speaks. And, of course, you can always hit the super chat, right, so that we can make sure that we're providing a African-centered frame of reference to, of course, the content that we are bringing to you all. We got to make sure that we're supporting independent Black media. But with that said, family, many of you may have even seen a number of reaction videos online and in the social media space, and of course in these YouTube streets, where individuals were speaking ill, of course, regarding the comments that Barack Obama made. But I think some of it was taken out of context, right? But once again, we're going to provide a critique. But what I'm going to do, family, is I'm going to play the entire clip, right? So we could get more of a broader understanding of what he was articulating, and then provide a critique. Of course, his wife, Michelle Obama, she has a podcast. She has a YouTube channel, 348,000 subscribers. And of course, they were having this conversation. He's talking about what it takes to raise boys and how Michelle made parenting better. Of course, in their opinion, I think something that's noteworthy here is that Barack Obama did not have any sons, but of course, at one point he was a son. And so he may be speaking from an anecdotal experience regarding, I would argue, maybe not having his father in his life the way that he wanted and desired. So something to consider their family. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to play the clip in its entirety. Then, of course, SSR, appreciate you tapping in from, of course, across the pond. I want you to tap in and share with me why you're saying you wish Obama would find somewhere to go, sit down, and, of course, shut up. So we're going to share the screen here, family, and then we're going to, of course, do a deeper dive where we're examining in the full context what he had to say, and then we could, of course, unpack and do a Black masculinist critique. Of course, we're going to be borrowing from the dynamic, inspirational, and groundbreaking work of Dr. T. Hassan Johnson, particularly his book that I have right here, Solutions for Anti-Black Misandry, Flat Blackness in Black Male Death, the Black Masculinist Turn. You could get this book, once again, wherever books are sold. So if you are concerned with issues that Black men face, concerned with, of course, ABM, anti-Black misandry, or just simply want to educate yourself on the subject matter, right? Make sure that you check out Dr. T. Hassan Johnson's book. I know you can purchase it online. I think even any place books are, of course, sold, and, of course, on Amazon. So make sure you check that out. Let's see here. Obama need his head cracked open for saying a child need 3 adults against 1 child. A woman don't need no 3 people to tell her shit, and neither do. Okay, I see. Will. Okay. So AFBM, I don't know who you are, but appreciate the comment. I can see that you, of course, take umbrage with some of the things that Obama said. So before we get started, family, let me just go over some of the ground rules here at Lumumba Speaks and, of course, Bequaline Network. One, we believe in diversity of thought. So irrespective if your perspective, your view, your ideology is worldview is on the right, down the middle, or even on the left, you could come here and be part of the conversation. We believe in that. We don't believe in operating in an echo chamber. We believe that this is a space not only in which we are intellectually incisive, but also a space in which we can learn and grow together. Number two, we want to make sure that no epithets of any kind are used. Of course, we don't use racial epithets of any kind. We believe this is a space of Black empowerment. We believe in the 3 N's of Black power. Those 3 N's, of course, self-respect, self-defense, and, of course, self-determination. Then, of course, number 3, facts over feelings. So if someone taps in, they're part of the conversation. If you disagree with them, attack the argument the person's making, not the person themselves. No ad hominem attacks. We don't do red herrings, right? We're going to attack the argument, not the person. Then last but not least, if you make a claim that is adverse to facts, I will turn into the Sandman and have to dial you back in, like as if we were at the Apollo Theater on 125th Street in Harlem, New York City. So let's look at some of these comments. If you take a child to get you comfortable inside of a threesome, that's just shame on you. You're so mentally ill. Your only stability is telling the child what to do. Shame on you when you didn't have none as a third word. So I don't understand what you're saying here. We go outside both day. Is that they were paying her too damn much to hear anybody's voice? So I really don't know what you're referring to here, AFBM. The clip was taken out of context, but it made Michelle's podcast go viral. I would agree. That's why I'm going to play the entire clip so we can understand what he was saying in the entire context. I still think there's space to, of course, critique, but I want to do that. You don't have a birth certificate to speak in America, so I would never repeat him. I don't know who you're referring to. However, as I do this in my country, so AFBM, but this is what we're going to do very quickly, family. The link is in the description if you want to tap in. I'm going to put the link in the chat. AFBM, tap in real quick because I'm trying to get an understanding of what you're saying. Who are you referring to when you say you don't have a birth certificate to speak in America, so I would never repeat him? Once again, that is, of course, adverse to one of the ground rules here at Lumumba Speaks to Be Quiet Network, which is what? You attack the argument, not the person. We can't grow and learn can't learn nothing from people that without a birth certificate. So once again, don't know what you're referring to. Tap in rather quickly, be part of the conversation, and then family, I can play the clip in the full context, and then of course we can unpack, deconstruct. That's behind the back. And Kenya said he was the American president of Kenya. So once again, the claim that you're making has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now, AFBM. So I need you to stay on task, right? We're here to critique his comments made on his wife's podcast. Anything else going on, what he said in Kenya, what he said in Russia, it's immaterial to the conversation today. So we want to make sure we're time on task. Tap in, we can have a conversation very quickly, or I'm going to move forward, of course, with the program and play the clip. So when the whole 99% of the country say you got to have a birth certificate to speak in America, American issue, do that and self-loathing. Once again, don't know what you're talking about. So once again, the link is in the description. The link is in the chat. You want to tap in, have a conversation very quickly regarding the comments you're making, you can do so. As people know, here on the platform, you do not have to cam up to be part of the conversation, and you do not, keyword, you do not have to use your actual name. You can use a pseudonym. So please, if you feel that strongly about the issue, if you got a birth certificate, you cannot argue with me over someone who don't, and I can't argue with you over someone that don't have a birth certificate that's American. Once again, so this is what we're going to do, family. Yeah, we're going to have to just exit stage left because this isn't working. You're seeking to make claims about something that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. So once again, you can tap in, be part of the conversation. That the man was not an American citizen, he would have never became president, right? But that's immaterial regarding the conversation that we're seeking to have today, right? Okay, so here we go. Now the person's talking about morning sickness. So we're just going to ban that user. Apologize for that, family. But, you know, people come in all the time and oftentimes want to engage in subterfuge, move people off target regarding what the conversation is actually about. So here we go, family. I'm going to actually play the clip in the entire context, and then we can have a conversation.
That's one of the things that I think a lot of times boys need is not just exposure to one guy.
One dad.
One dad. No matter how good the dad
is. He can't be everything.
He can't be everything. And then that boy may need somebody to give the boy some perspective on the dad.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
One of the most valuable things I learned as a guy was I had a gay professor in college at a time when openly gay folks still weren't outlawed, who became one of my favorite professors and was a great guy and would call me out when I started saying stuff that was ignorant. You need that to show empathy and kindness. And by the way, you need that person in your friend group so that if you then have a boy who's gay or non-binary or what have you, they have somebody that they can go, okay, I'm not alone in this.
Yeah.
Right. So that I think is creating that community. I know it's corny, but that's what they need.
And we talk a lot about what we had with our mother and father, right? And a lot of times but we really did have a big community of people in our lives.
Right.
I mean, that we don't talk a lot about that on this show. We allude to it, but Craig and I, we grew up in a huge community of extended aunts and uncles and cousins and all types of male role models, which helped in broadening out and filling in where our mother and father were limited.
So okay, family. So that's the clip. And like I said, I think part of it was taken out of context. But I do think there are some things that we can critique regarding what was said by former President Barack Obama in that snippet on, of course, his wife's podcast. So once again, family, the link is in the description, link is in the chat. If you want to tap in and be part of the conversation, you can go ahead and do so. So one, he talked about, even if the father is a good father, he can't do everything, which is, that's logical. But the thing is, you never hear people say that about mom, right? You never hear someone say, my mother can't do everything. People typically say, my mother was everything, right? So I would argue that this is another example, of course, of shade towards Black men, right? I would argue, and I see you snapshot, I'm gonna bring you in momentarily. This is promoting in a subtle manner the disposability and fungibility of Black fathers, right? As we all know, the African proverb states, the ruin of a nation begins in the homes of its people. And anyone who's tried to mentor a young man, if you've done this type of work, irrespective of what value you can provide in that individual's life, it's very difficult to direct that individual, in a positive direction if it isn't being reinforced or grounded, or that foundation is not in the home. It's extremely difficult. So these are a couple of things I think we need to consider. I would argue he's making an argument that, you have to turn YouTube off in the background, snapshot, I'll leave you muted. The argument that the fact that he had a gay male professor was able to teach him empathy. This is another example, of course, what Dr. T. Hassan Johnson calls a form of anti-Black misandry known as heterophobia. This concept that Black men are brutes. We lack the refinement of civilization and culture in order to be loving, caring, right, empathetic, etc., etc. So you have to go to someone who's a member of the other rainbow community, LGBTQ community, right? And that in itself, I think, is stereotypical that men who are LGBTQ somehow are able to be more caring and loving, so on and so forth. It really plays into this concept of homophilia and the flamboyant homosexual man, right? Okay, so these are some of the things, right? Now, I see your comment there, Mr. Sandman. You say these people have gay people in their family, that they throw attention when the president says it's okay to accept a gay person. But I don't know if I don't think he was saying it's okay to accept someone. I don't think he was making a claim about either you have to accept or deny. I think the issue that I have is the fact that he was inferring, and right, this is what Dr. T. Hassan Johnson calls course of refined anti-Black misandry. There's an academic veneer to, of course, the misandry, where these individuals tend to be well-spoken, extremely articulate, well-read, hold or have held prestigious positions, not only maybe in the academy, but of course in American society. You can argue there's no position is more prestigious than what being president of the United States, known as POTUS. But what I took umbrage with is the inferring, right, the supposition of his statement was that heterosexual, because the presumption is that if you are a father, you have a child, you have a son, right, you're a heterosexual man, even though there are individuals who have children who aren't heterosexual. We all know that, right? But the presumption that heterosexual Black men are incapable, lack the capacity, right, to be loving, caring, affectionate, empathetic. I take extreme umbrage with that. And in fact, I had an individual tell me the other day, they made a presumption that I lacked the capacity to do that because I was very masculine and I focus on, logic and intellect. And I said, well, no, as a parent, as a father, you wear several hats, right? One of the hats you wear, of course, is being a disciplinarian, providing structure. There are times where you're going to be a nutritionist for your children. There are times where you're going to be a therapist for your child. There are times where you're going to be a coach. There are times where you're going to be a hype man. There are times you're going to be a cheerleader. There are times where you're going to be a nurse, right? You wear a multitude of hats as a parent, right? And so it really is, really quixotic to me, right? I mean, truly, that someone of his ilk, education, would make a claim like this, right? With the presumption being a snapshot, I hope you could tap back in. The presumption being that heterosexual Black male fathers lack the capacity to be loving, caring, empathetic, supportive, so on and so forth, right? Provides a sense of empathy, right? I can recall my father. Of course, I've shared on my platform on several occasions that I'm the youngest in my family, and I've always bragged that I'm the favorite in my family amongst the 3 children, right? At least that's my perspective, and I'm sticking to it. But I can recall vividly my father telling my brother and sister to be caring and loving, not to laugh at me, not to shame me, not to ridicule me when I wasn't able to do something that they were able to do due to the fact that I was much younger, right? And one of the things I struggled with doing early in my childhood was riding a bike, right? So they said, be supportive of your brother, right? So maybe he's making that claim because he didn't have his father. I'm making a presumption here. I'm not trying to throw shade or throw a shot, but I think oftentimes what takes place on these platforms of individuals are oftentimes operating from a nominal feminist paradigm, right? And from a feminist paradigm, they view patriarchy, masculinity as inherently, historically, and contemporarily troubled. And oftentimes with these paradigms, right, these ideological constructs of Black men in civil society, in Western society, you could even say in the world, what takes place is they view any and all attributes of masculinity and patriarchal behavior as problematic, right? But then behavioral characteristics associated with femininity and matriarchy are viewed as positive, right? And they arbitrarily make these type of claims. Arbitrarily, it isn't based on empirical research, longitudinal studies, or even conversations with Black men who are fathers, right? Or Black men who had fathers and they were sons. So that's the issue. That's the rub that I had. That is the issue and the rub that I had with his comment, right? The second issue, and I think this is maybe tertiary to, of course, the issue at hand, was once again stereotyping homosexual men as somehow having the capacity to be more empathetic and loving and caring based on their sexual orientation. I've read a large amount of queer theory due to, of course, that was required in my doctoral program. And I can recall, I'm quite sure I read somewhere that one of the issues members of that community had was the fact that people were associating their character with their sexual orientation. And they argue that it's not mutually exclusive, right? We're simply a regular person just like anyone else. But he's now making the claim that this gentleman was able to be caring, loving, and empathetic because of his sexual orientation, not because of his character or his education, right? Which I think, of course, is problematic. Now, when he says, hey, if you have a child who's a member of that community or non-binary, that's a good thing to know that person, because then they know that they're not in it by themselves. That, of course, makes complete sense, right? You need community. But the issue that I have, once again, of course, is him stereotyping that an individual in that community is going to have the capacity to have these, what he would consider positive behavioral characteristics based on one's sexual orientation, while at the same time making a supposition that heterosexual Black men lack these behavioral characteristics, in part, it seems, based on the fact that they are heterosexual. That is what I find to be extremely problematic. And to me, that is an example of anti-Black misandry. And we know Obama has a history of kind of going in on what is seen as heterosexual Black men. We could recall his tangent with Black men in terms of voting for Kamala Harris, right? When he was talking down to those brothers leading up to, of course, the election. So those are my thoughts, family. Those are my thoughts. Hopefully you all could tap in, be part of the conversation. The link is in the description. The link is in the chat. But I would love to hear from you all on this issue. Once again, I played the video in the entire context so that people could get an understanding of what he's saying, what he said, not take it out of context and just, go for the clickbait to get views. But those are my views. Of course, this is an intellectual critique. I would argue an African-centered Black masculinist critique, of course, of what Obama had to say. And of course, we're working from, of course, the dynamic work of Dr. T. Hassan Johnson, who, of course, is a full professor of Africana Studies at Fresno State University. And if you haven't, family, as I said before, make sure you get his book, Solutions for Anti-Black Misandry, Blackness, and Black Male Death. We're talking about the Black masculinist turn. So, David Plummer, well, that has not. He is immaterial to the conversation. So, I appreciate the comment, but he is immaterial to the conversation. Our focus, once again, is just examining what Obama had to say in this clip regarding mentors for, of course, Black boys, the raising of Black boys. And I think another issue, once again, is we talk about the disposability, right? A lot of people who I would argue seek to undermine Black fathers' role in the raising and rearing of their children, particularly in terms of implementing values, worldview, perspectives, etc. Would say, well, see, the Obama said that, you're not enough. So I could just go arbitrarily find someone else and then have them start playing that type of role in the child's life. Ultimately, yes, growing up, you're going to have more than just your father or older brother play a role in terms of your rearing and maturation into, of course, adulthood. However, the father has to sign off on that person being an influential figure, right? So there's a number of ways one could view this. I see it as problematic, not for the reasons that most people see it as, but from a Black masculinist critique. Once again, we talk about this concept of heterophobia, right? Articulating, an argument that the supposition is Black men lack the capacity to be loving, caring, considerate, and affectionate, so on and so forth. This concept of disposability. I've never heard someone say my mother couldn't do everything, wasn't everything, right? I can recall Kevin Durant when he won the MVP award saying my mom was the MVP, right? Even though we know you can't do everything. So this type of language, I think, is representative of course, viewing Black men not only as socially incompetent, which of course is another form of course, anti-Black misandry, but also as disposable. We're talking about the fungibility of course, Black fathers. And this is coming from what I would argue is what Dr. T. Hassan Johnson calls coarse and refined anti-Black misandry that comes with academic veneer, with the individuals who are articulating these talking points, unfortunately, have a lot of influence and pull due to their education, their intellect, their charisma, and their ability to articulate positions that are antithetical, I would argue, to Black men's forward progression in society. But they're able to get away with it due to, of course, their credentials and intellect. So once again, family, the link is in the description. The link is in the chat. Tap in, be part of the conversation. I would love to hear your thoughts, particularly about Mr. Sandman, because it seems that you, of course, were aware. And of course, I hope that snapshot reviews, you could tap back in as well. Let's see here. Max says, seems like Obama's pushing the agenda that he championed for during his presidency. That may be the case. Maybe the case. Tap in, be part of the conversation. Once again, you do not have to cam up to be part of the combo. You do not have to cam up, and you can, keyword, you can use a pseudonym to be part of the conversation. I would love to hear from you all regarding, of course, Obama says Black boys should have LGBTQ mentors. Is he right? I would argue that in a nuanced manner, he made that claim, particularly his view or belief that individuals of that ilk are able to teach compassion, consideration, etc., empathy, something I would disagree with. I know people, irrespective of their sexual orientation, that are low down and don't give a damn about anyone, who are selfish, solipsistic, and think the world revolves around them. So I think that, of course, is a stereotype, but I think what's even more damning is him making the argument, or the supposition of his argument being, that heterosexual Black men, fathers, do not have the capacity, lack the capacity or the ability or the know-how to, of course, be empathetic and loving and teach those type of concepts and ideas to their children. That is what I take extreme umbrage with. And so I would love to hear you all's thoughts on that as well. So once again, family, the link is in the description. The link is in the chat. Tap in, be part of the conversation. You're watching, of course, LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black, in conjunction with the Bequalon Network, the Pan-African social media extraordinaire, and the home of African-centered news and information. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. And as you all know, always be a blessing to the show at Venmo, at B Lumumba, Cash App us at Lumumba Speaks, and of course, make sure you hit the super chat. So family, tap in, be part of the convo. I love to hear from you all on a provocative, of course, comments made by former President Barack Hussein Obama. Right, so tap in, family, be part of the conversation. If not, we're going to check out a little early this afternoon. Happy Pan-African Tuesday to everyone. And if you are someone who is a gym rat, for most people who follow Ronnie Coleman's training program, then you know Tuesday is leg day. So, but once again, family, tap in, be part of the conversation. Would love to hear from you all regarding this issue, of course, of Obama. His views, of course, of LGBTQ mentors for Black boys, but also more importantly, I think his views of heterosexual Black men and the inability or lacking the capacity or know-how to be loving, empathetic towards their own children and to teach these concepts and ideas to their children. I think that's what is extremely, extremely problematic, untoward almost behavior. Right? I think you would expect more people would come out and speak ill of that aspect of what he had to say, rather than, of course, seeking to, of course, provide their ire towards the LGBTQ comment or reference in this conversation. But, I don't think too much of that because, Confucius said you can learn from anyone. And I can say certainly in my journey as an academic, as an intellect, and as a professional, I have as well. So that's not the issue that I would take umbrage with. Okay. I once spoke negatively about a gay to a man whose child passed away from AIDS because he was gay. That's where I learned to be mindful of speech. I didn't know his son died and was gay, right? But I would argue, the individual, and I appreciate your comment, Brother Sandman, shout out to the 215. Don't know if you are aware, but of course at Big Ten Media Days, Penn State was actually selected to win the Big Ten this year, but we know that's not going to happen because your coach, James Franklin, doesn't know how to get out of his own way. Now, back to the conversation at hand, but you don't have to throw shade because you're from the Keystone State. I would argue that this child passed away from AIDS due to having unprotected sex. I would argue that that was not a result or aspect due to one's sexual orientation, right? But we do know that there's a higher likelihood of contracting HIV/AIDS if one is a member of that community and engages in unprotected sex. But I do appreciate that comment. I think you're absolutely right. We should be mindful of our speech, right? I think we should be mindful of our speech. I would agree with you 100% there. 100%. There's no need to be reckless with our language. You don't know who the person is, what experiences they had, so on and so forth. So I agree with you 100%. Even if you disagree with the lifestyle, right? You don't have to agree with the lifestyle. You don't have to agree with anything. But I still think there's a way to engage and communicate with people in a manner that is, of course, worthy of honor and respect. So I appreciate that, Mr. Sandman. Once again, family, tap in, be part of the conversation. The link is in the description. The link is in the chat. If not, we're going to end up calling it early this afternoon. Happy Pan-African Tuesday to everyone. But listen, I understand this may be a charged subject, a charged topic. So once again, if you want to tap in, you do not have to use your actual name, and you can use a pseudonym. I know for many people say, hey, I don't want to say what I really feel because there may be a chance that this clip may go viral and it can harm my livelihood, my employment, right? My business. So I understand that completely. But once again, you can tap in. You can, of course, as I've stated always, use a pseudonym when you do have to cam up. Still at work. He said he's still at work, can't call in, understand that. But once again, I would love to hear from the family regarding this issue. If you can, put your thoughts in the chat. I can read them live on the show. Once again, snapshot reviews. Hopefully you could tap back in. And also Max, I think it was Max. But love to hear from you. Hopefully you can, of course, expound on your views, your talking points, your perspective regarding what you believe Obama's doing in terms of seeking to, of course, continue to push the agenda that you believe he championed during his presidency. So tap in, family, be part of the conversation. I want to hear from you all regarding this issue. So Brandon says, I think Obama is well-intended, but is tone deaf about how homosexuality was brought upon Blacks in slavery. Obama feels more and more like a plant as time passes. So Brandon, I need you to tap in and be part of the combo. I want to get a better understanding of what do you mean by that when you say it being brought upon Black people during the Holocaust of enslavement. Please tap in, be part of the conversation. Once again, you do not have to cam up, and you do not have to use your actual name. You can use a pseudonym. Tap in, be part of the conversation. I want to hear from you regarding this issue, but I also like for you to expound, of course, on your comments. So please, if you can, tap in, be part of the convo regarding Obama being tone deaf, the issue of course, it being forced upon Black people during the Holocaust of enslavement, and your views that Obama is a plant at times. What do you mean by that? So tap in, family, be part of the conversation, but love to hear from you all. You're watching, of course, LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative where we believe we can gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black in conjunction with Bequaline Network, the Pan-African social media extraordinaire, in the home of African-centered news and information. So once again, family, tap in, be part of the conversation. Can't wait to hear from you all and have a robust, intellectually stimulating conversation where I hope we can provide a Black masculinist critique, of course, of Obama's comments. So tap in, family, be part of the convo. If not, we're going to end up shutting things down a little early. Brandon, if you're still on, put a 1 in the chat if you're going to tap in. Put a 2 in the chat if you want. So once again, Brandon, if you could put a 1 in the chat if you are going to tap in, and put a 2 in the chat if you are not, that would be greatly appreciated. That way I would know to stay on, of course, or tap out. But once again, family, hope to hear from you all. Once again, you do not have to cam up to be part of the conversation, and you can use a pseudonym. But as I said, I've shared my views, and I think part of that, of course, is rooted in not only heterophobia, but also this concept of the disposability of Black men, Black fathers, and even viewing Black fathers as socially incompetent, right? They make the claim that he could be a great father, but he's not good enough. And we never hear that type of parallel comment made about mothers or Black mothers. I think, once again, it speaks to, he may even think that he's well-intentioned, but the ingrained anti-Black misandry that I think, of course, he has experienced and, of course, is articulating himself. So number of things to discuss, right? He even talked about in terms of when he would go over to see, Michelle at their parents' house, and talked about how there were a lot of men in the family, uncles, cousins. Some were soft-spoken, others were loud, right? Even using the adjective of loud, right, as a descriptor of the person's behavior, where he could say simply sound more assertive, right, in terms of their disposition or their views, right, or willing to communicate that. I just think, once again, that the language that he used, of course, I think speaks volumes in terms of how one views a particular group of people or subgroup, right? And like I said, I believe that the supposition of that statement, the statement that he made, was rooted in numerous forms of anti-Black misandry. Hey, I may be reading too far into it, family. Hey, you tell me. But once again, family, tap in, be part of the conversation. You're watching LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black Empowerment Initiative where we believe we can gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black, in conjunction with, of course, Bequaline Network, the Pan-African social media extraordinaire, and the home of African-centered news and information. So tap in, family, be part of the conversation. The link is in the description. The link is in the chat. I know this is something people want to talk about because I saw it blowing up, of course, on the message boards and, of course, on social media. So tap in, family, be part of the conversation, and let me know. Maybe I'm off base here. This is a space where we're able to have some engaging constructive criticism. So we'd love to hear from you all regarding this issue. So once again, Snapshot is back. Appreciate you, brother.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Oh, okay, cool. Sorry, because I'm outside and there might be a bit of street noise, but if it is, just tell me. I'll have to drop off again. Yeah, I just picked up bits of that conversation, and I've seen other people's commentary on it. It just always seems like from conversations like that with people like that, it always starts off from a position that the man or the father is inherently bad. They don't know that, right? They don't know that at all. And they are also inferring as if the dad is the only person that the son is going to get male influence from. Well, isn't that what we have godparents for, or uncles, or like, do you know what I mean? Other or teachers and stuff that you would come into contact with.
Right.
It was very much because what I find with certain people of a certain, say, class, as we call it, they're very quick to just look down their nose at people or just assume the worst based on nothing. Right. And what I also noticed from that conversation is anything involving mothers or any kind of talk like that, there was never this starting from a negative perspective.
Yeah, there really was no critique whatsoever.
Could do no wrong.
Yeah, no critique whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a bit weird. But for him saying about the gay professor or whatnot and stuff is a bit weird because obviously homosexuality is a sexual orientation, isn't it? Mm-hmm. That should have nothing to do with how that professor has a conversation with you as a student or talks to you. He could give you some really good life advice, but the fact that he's gay is absolutely irrelevant.
Yeah, it's immaterial. It has nothing to do with that. And that's why I said, and I kind of said this in a fleeting, a jocular manner. I'm quite sure I recall reading that when we talk about many gay rights activists, they took umbrage with people associating their sexual orientation as being a representational placeholder or found, I can't think of the proper word, but playing a role in that person's overall character.
Yeah, I don't know. It all sounds kind of weird to me, man, really. I mean, really and truly, that should have no bearing on how a student interacts with a professor. That's got nothing to do with it. If the professor is professional, they would keep their personal life separate.
Personal. Because here's the thing, I know some folks in that community who are low down. Wayans, dirty shame, low down dirty shame. So what are we talking about here?
Yeah, exactly. It's not like there aren't any bad people in that community, but they're acting like the default for them is it's someone who's good. Right. It's weird, but also
and that's an example of heterophobia, anti-Black misandric heterophobia.
I've never heard of that phrase before.
Yes. So matter of fact, this is why I tell everyone, please go get this book by Dr. T. Hassan Johnson. You can get it on Amazon or anywhere books are sold. Solutions for Anti-Black Misandry, Flat Blackness, and Black Male Death, the Black Masculinist Turner. So I'm just going to read this section where he talks about anti-Black misandry, heterophobia. Right? So let me see here. Give me 1 second. And so if you go on my channel, I actually did an interview with Dr. T. Hassan Johnson back in October of last year where we discussed this book. So heterophobia, he says heterophobia is the constructed idea that heterosexual Black men are to be hated because they are wicked, evil, and to be feared. In essence, heterophobia is the fear of straight Black men. This has a long history stemming from the chattel slave era, and is the impetus behind the many rape accusations, lynching, instances of police brutality, time massacres, and high incarceration rates faced by Black men. With anti-Black misandry heterophobia, white women can sexually dominate Black men while accusing Black men of being aggressors, using the law and public acceptance of Black men, much the same way lynch mob were used during slavery to coerce men into their sexual service. Meanwhile, heterosexual Black men are often sought after by white men as big game, or in other words, those with martial authority or vigilantes who hunt Black men for sport. This is the cause of many police killings of unarmed Black men seen as both a threat and the means for demonstrating social dominance. Ironically, anti-Black male heterophobia can be seen in research from the most popular theoreticians on Black masculinity, i.e. Bell Hooks. In her assessment of the Central Park Five, a group of young Black men accused of having raped a white woman in Central Park in New York, she stated this, and then, of course, I will digress. She says, no one can truly believe that young Black males involved in the Central Park incident were not engaged in a suicidal ritual enactment of a dangerous masculinity that will ultimately threaten their lives, their well-being. If one reads again Michael Dyson's piece, The Plight of Black Men, focusing especially on the part where he describes the reason many young Black men form gangs, the sense of absolute belonging and unsurpassed love, it's easy to understand why young Black males are despairing and nihilistic. And it is rather naive to think that if they do not value their own lives, they will value the lives of others. Is it really so difficult for folks to see the connection between constant pornographic glorification of male violence against women that is represented, enacted, and condoned daily in the culture in the Central Park crime? So this was a leading Black feminist theoretician in the academy saying this about these brothers who actually were innocent.
Well, do you know what that's reinforced with as well? Is these Tyler Perry movies.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he cookie cutters dark skinned Black dudes as the aggressor, as the villain, and all of that sort of stuff. And a lot of people, unfortunately, eat it up. The thing with the Obamas, and they're talking about this, is there's a couple of things that is biased. And one is the fact that they don't have sons. So they only have daughters themselves. So they would have a limited view of raising a son. And my understanding is Barack himself, he didn't really have a relationship with his father.
That is correct.
So, but you would think that, because I think Michelle and her brother seem to talk highly about their parents.
Yeah,
they've got first-hand experience of a father doing the right thing, but still the default is the heterosexual male is bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's a weird. It's weird. I don't know how else to kind of describe it.
Absolutely.
It's like once you start to go down this narrow tunnel vision, like where you start to deny your own reality, people are lost. Like I'm seeing it more and more now with a lot of this xenophobic divide that seems to be trying to happen in the diaspora, and I know people firsthand have had the opposite experience of the crap that they're spewing online. But despite that, it's like they give up their brains for the negative, like or the things that just aren't real. For what reason?
Well, I think part of it is a sense of belonging, right? And I think that's part. I mean, when Bell Hooks talks about, citing Michael Dyson, talking about why Black men join gangs, right? But oftentimes they're joining gangs because there's a lack of an actual family. They don't have that actual male figure in the home. And I remember, so you all, all aware of Brother Dwayne Omawale. He's the resident historian here at, of course, Lumumba Speaks and Be Cool Network. And he's far better a historian than I probably would ever be. But one of the things we discussed when we were having a conversation is the benefit of growing up with your father in the home, that you typically have developed a very healthy sense of masculinity and a very and you're not in a situation where you feel you have to prove your manhood and masculinity at any point because your father's validating you every day, right? And I agree 100%. I can recall having my father and even my older brother When I came of age, I never felt that I had to do something to prove that I was a man. And when I came in contact with brothers, of course, who didn't have fathers in their home, they would normally say, hey, I'm a man, that's why I'm doing this. I never felt that way. For example, I don't mind, of course, sharing here. I get manicures and pedicures every 2 weeks. That doesn't make, I don't feel like I'm not a man, right? I don't like doing manual labor, even though I can actually work well with my hands, fix things, so on and so forth. Not something I like to do, right?
Yeah.
So even though I lift weights on a regular basis, and I could bench press nearly 400 pounds, I could squat nearly 500 pounds, I could deadlift nearly 600 pounds. I don't view any of those things having anything to do with my masculinity.
Yeah,
it's just I like to work out.
Yeah, and you're comfortable in that. There's nothing wrong with getting a pedicure. It's my birthday next week, and my missus is treating me. So,
right.
So I mean, like, there's no harm in it. But going back to the sense of belonging, do you think that's a stronger force to pull a young man into a gang than the economic incentive?
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean,
okay.
First and foremost, and once again, we've been children before, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have siblings. Do you have siblings, by the way, brother?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Are you older, younger? What?
I'm the oldest, and there's a huge age gap between me and all of them.
Okay. So
yeah.
I can say I'm the baby in my family, right?
Okay.
In my parents' favorite, as I always say, right?
Okay.
But I can vividly recall as a child seeking the acceptance and approval of my older sister and my older brother. With my children, and of course, I have clips of my children on our intro video. I can vividly recall, of course, they're teenagers now, my daughter seeking my son's older brother's approval and acceptance. And that meant the world to her.
Yeah.
Right? It meant the world to my daughter when I would tell her, hey, who's the best daughter ever? And she would say me.
Yeah.
Or when I used to do this when she was like 5 or 6, she would take a shower and I would always play Brian McKnight's song At One. So one time my daughter gets out the shower, she's wrapped the towel around her and she says, Daddy, what's a dream come true? And I said, you, Z. And she's, oh, right. So that's something that normally, right. But also speaks to the point, what they say we don't know how to be loving and caring and compassionate and considerate and empathetic. Cap, right? No, you want to go talk to some black men who are fathers.
Yeah, and that's the thing. These people will never go out and talk to regular people. It's like they're just in their bubble. Like they would never have a conversation like that in a standard barbershop.
No. Well, so I would push back. If they do, they're going to know to have that conversation about individuals that they believe are not able to challenge them intellectually.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to give another example. We talk about sense of belonging, and I'm going to shut the hell up because I'm starting to bloviate, right? I recall vividly being in 6th grade. 6th, right? We're talking about MJ, 6 ring, 6th grade. And I wanted to join this clique at my school where we would wear 2 pins on our shirt every day. So I asked my dad, hey, can you go to the store and get me these 2, pins that you clip on your shirt? So of course, like most fathers, he said, why? Now, mind, I'm in 6th grade. I think my sister is a senior in high school. My brother, I think, is in 8th grade, 8th or 9th grade, something like that. My dad says, why? So I articulate to him, explain why. And my dad said, no, you don't join no crowd. You be yourself. Right?
Yeah.
And, my dad said that. And you know what? I've been like that my entire life. I don't give a damn what nobody think. I'm about this. That's what I'm going to be. And I said, damn, you know where I got that from? My father.
Yeah.
He instilled that in me at an early age. You don't follow no goddamn crowd.
Yeah, that's good.
You be yourself. Yeah. My dad didn't go to college. He wasn't some intellect or wizard. But being a man, he didn't just say, okay, I understand, son. I'm going to feel sorry for you. I want you to be popular and have people like you. Nah, you be you.
Yeah. There are never platform stories like that.
Yeah. So that's why, when I did my Father's Day, show, I had a 2-hour conversation with my dad. I said, man, you ain't got to apologize for nothing. I'm a PhD. You did something right.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, take a bow.
Yeah, you should tell him that story.
Yeah, matter of fact, I said, you know what? I'm gonna send you and mom some money. Y'all go to dinner.
Yeah.
You help make this.
Yeah.
Now, of course, when you leave home, of course, you're going to run into people and they're going to play a role in terms of having mentors. That's why that's why we tend to, even on the continent, even in the diaspora, we call people uncle and auntie, right? We do that, but it doesn't undermine the role your parents played, the role your father played in leading you to be the person that you are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, spot on, man. I don't know. I mean, did you get to have a look at the comment section on their video?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
What was the general consensus?
Well, the general consensus was, they were, I could read it. How the world went from this depth and decency to what we have now will forever astound me. Such a joy to hear my president's voice. I love this man. I can just say how amazing it is to listen to three articulate adults talk about an amazing topic in a thoughtful way. The coolest president and first lady ever. The level of intellect, poise, and thoughtfulness that Barack Obama shows has never been seen in their presidency before and never will be seen again. What a blessing. Thank you, Michelle and Craig, for this insightful podcast. It's so refreshing to say brother and sister interact with love and warmth, representing and offering dialogue about current events. Bravo. This warms my heart. Normal conversation, real people. Just clicked in 1 second as soon as I saw it. The best people ever. They bring joy and hope each time they talk. Positive vibes, energies. So everything is just positive.
Yeah, they got a lock on so many people's minds, man.
Yeah. Wow. Let me read this one. Wow, this really helped me a lot. I've been struggling with my son and just feeling like I'm doing something wrong, not feeling enough for him as a single parent. The tools that these men gave really empowered me to expose my son to more men, just have room on him for all levels. So let me speak to that very quickly. Right. And this is the sister who made this comment. And I'm going to push back against that. And I'm going to strongly push back against that. And there was an episode of Law and Order. Law and Order is my favorite TV series of all time. My son asked me one day when he was probably 7 or 8 years old. He says, "Dad, why do you watch Law and Order so much?" And I said, "Well, son, no, Law and Order, the series started in 1990, and I vividly recall watching that series with my mother during the summer of 1990." And I said, "I've been hooked ever since." Right? I watched it going up, middle school, elementary, high school. And of course, I've been watching now. So in 2011, there was an episode of Law and Order SVU starring Carmelo Anthony and Chris Bosh. That episode talked about how there was a white guy who was a basketball coach who was molesting his black male players, right? And this was really based on what took place at Penn State with Gary Sandusky. So this was a rip from the headlines episode of Law and Order SVU, which is something that Law and Order does on a regular basis. They will take something ripped from the headlines, change the storyline up a little bit, and then of course that will be the episode of that show. What we find is oftentimes individuals that are seeking to sexually abuse young men, knowingly and willingly, will make themselves avail themselves to women and say, "I'm willing to help mentor your child," so on and so forth. And these women would then give their child to these men, oftentimes without even vetting these individuals. One, because they need rest. They feel they need a break from the rigors and vicissitudes of course, parenting. And three, they're just happy that someone is taking an interest in that child. And I would say this as a grown man, if an adult is taking interest in your child, to me, that's a fucking red flag. Now, if you go to another adult and say, "Listen, this is something, my son's focused on. I don't know much about it. Can you look?" That's different. But if the adult typically is something to consider. There's a thing called grooming. It's a real issue. There's a suburban high school of my hometown, Dayton, Ohio. It was all over the paper today, where this individual who was the head of the band was actually groom. He's been charged with trying to groom two of his female students. Right. And so this plays a huge role in how children find themselves susceptible to being victims of sexual abuse during their adolescence or childhood, because the mother's oftentimes trying to push someone on the child to be a father figure, when the reality is they could just give the child to the damn father.
Oh, that's deep, man.
The number one cause in the United States of America, per the FBI crime statistics, for child sexual abuse is the mother availing their child to some other mother flood pucker with cheese.
Right. You see, the thing is, right, yeah.
Number one.
with single mothers and stuff, if they're struggling to raise their sons or help with their rearing or their discipline, and they feel like they can't speak to the child's father, common sense should be telling them they need to be speaking to the men in their family.
Exactly.
Because even if that mum's new boyfriend isn't a child fiddler or whatever, the child is never going to really respect him as he would a male in his family. And you would think that would be the first port of call for them to think about that.
No,
but it's not. And especially if the mum's known to have, a different boyfriend every year or two, why is the child gonna like want to bond with them? And well, that's just mum's boyfriend, not a stepdad.
Right.
Well, I don't know, man. I don't know. That's just like, it's just wild, man. Like,
yeah, it's pretty wild. I'm trying to see if I can find this clip from divorce court where Judge Lynn Toler talks about this. Oh yeah, here we go. Frank.
Oh, sorry, just before you play that. But in terms of like Obama, do you think what he was saying was taken out of context, or do you think?
Yeah, most people took it out of context by trying to say that, okay, your child needs to have an LGBTQ mentor. People really miss the point and part of that, because most people, when they do content, is for shock value.
Yeah.
So,
but Obama himself, like, what did you get any sense that wasn't what he was saying, or do you think he was just trying to say, oh, it's good for people to just be around different groups of people to get well-rounded? Is that
may have been what he was saying, but I like I said, I saw a lot of misandry in the comment that he was making.
Yeah.
So like I said, I think because people, because I'm gonna throw shade at some other people here that make content. I think due to the inability to be intellectually curious, right, looking for shock value, not being able to actually read, do a deeper dive and really understand the supposition of what he was saying, they missed the misandry, they missed the heterophobia, they missed the disposability, they missed the perspective of him basically articulating in a nuanced and veiled manner the social incompetence of Black men. And they just.
But let's be honest, most of them don't care about any of that.
I know.
Yeah,
I know. So let me play this very quickly.
Yeah, I've got to dip out because I'm trying to go to the gym, so I'll be listening in, but I've got to leave the studio. All right. Take care, yeah. All right.
Let me tell you people something. The rush of love is nothing but a chemical reaction. It's your hormones talking to his hormones. Like, ooh, wee, look at him over there. He's saying a couple of things I like. And then your hormones say, yeah, ooh, wee, look at there. This could be a constant source of sex. Let's see if we can do something about it. And you don't know anybody in 90 days. You certainly don't know them well enough in 45 days to put your daughter in a car with them and let them leave your premise, leave your site. You don't know that. I don't care how good it feels. I don't care how right it feels. People tell you what they want you to hear when they're first trying to get you. Do you see what I'm saying? They tell you you're beautiful. They tell you all that stuff. That's what con men, like those romantic con men are so good. Oh, back out in Nigeria, women sending them money because they know what women want to hear. Then they tell you, and we got this great story going on about how this is the man of our dreams. The man of your dreams does not exist. There's going to be a man. Yes, sir. He's going to be okay. But he's going to be full of faults and problems and issues just like you. So if you're with a guy and he seems perfect, all that means is you don't know him well enough.
And I would agree with her sentiments 100%. Of course, Judge Lynn Toler is from the great state of Ohio. So shout out to OHIO. But once again, this speaks to the point. This woman only knew this man 45 days, and she puts her child in the car and says, you could take him, so take my daughter somewhere. These are the type of things that happen because individuals are looking, right, for some type of help raising a child. And they actually are putting their children in danger. Right. So this is something to consider, family, when we talk about this concept of having mentors and so on and so forth around your children. You don't really know people, right? So something to, of course, be considerate of, family. So once again, tap in, be part of the conversation. We'd love to hear from you all. If not, we will, of course, close out. But as always, I appreciate you, Brother Snapshot, for tapping in and, of course, being part of the conversation. And of course, I'm gonna play another video here in a second that speaks to this. But one of the things we tend to find is a lot of individuals, when they make content about issues in the Black community, their assessment tends to be extremely surface level. And of course, I may be getting on my high horse here, having the privilege of being an academic, having the privilege, of course, of having a terminal degree, working, of course, in the academy. But when I talk to brothers and sisters in the community, at the barbershop, etc., once again, these typically aren't issues that they consider, and I argue is really oftentimes rooted in a lazy thinking, and of course, not doing a deeper dive in terms of being intellectually curious, seeking to educate oneself on a diurnal basis. And we know that Dr. Hakeem Adabuti, in his book Black Man Single Dangerous, the Black family, African American family in transition, talks about to have a revolutionary mindset is to work for yourself outside of working 40 hours for your employer, to be intellectually curious, to be politically incisive, so on and so forth. So something to consider there. But I'm going to play this video as well. This is just another example that really speaks to the point I was making. Of course, this is a clip from, of course, Judge Mathis' show. So fair use, fair use, fair use.
Plaintiff Sierra Medinger dated the defendant, and he led her to believe they were a family. But Sierra discovered he was cheating when she called a number she found on his phone bill, and his mistress answered. Sierra is suing for breach of contract. Defendant Brian Rutledge says Sierra was obsessed with him, and she became so controlling and manipulative that she tried to buy his love. Brian insists everything from Sierra was a gift, and he's countersuing for defamation of character.
Start with you.
Your Honor, I was not only fooled once, not twice, but 3 times by my ex-boyfriend. He's not only a liar, a cheater, but he deceives women. Brian made me believe that we were a family, and in that family situation, I would pay the bills, he would help out with the kids, and...
You all have children together?
No, I have children, and he has children separate.
Okay.
I was paying the bills, and by doing so, I had found out that he was cheating on me with someone else in Milwaukee.
He didn't work?
No.
When did you all meet?
We
or
had
began
met.
dating?
We started seeing each other in September of 2012.
Did he move in with you?
We were seeing each other for a while, and I knew that he was leaving for a job.
Did he move in with you?
Not completely
You
at
don't
that time.
know whether he moved in
No,
with you?
not at that time. He did not move in.
I said, did he?
Eventually,
move in?
yes.
When?
December of 2012.
No wonder you're so evasive. You moved a man in 3 months with your kids?
Yeah. So we see this isn't a racial issue. She moved this man in, and after knowing him for 3 months with her children. The man doesn't have a job. If he's able just to move in with you at a moment's notice, that means the individual is unstable. So now, once again, you're putting your children at risk. This is something that we find that is done on a diurnal basis. I need help raising these kids. I would take almost any Joe Blow off the street as long as they're able to help lighten my load in any way, shape, or form. This is why I push back against this argument, right? You have to be very careful who you bring your children around, who you provide access, who has access to your children, right? And this isn't conjecture. I'm speaking as a parent, as a father, right? So just something, once again, to consider. Something to consider, family. So once again, fam, look, tap in, be part of the convo. If not, we're going to end up closing out. But I'm going to see if there's another clip that I can play for you all that kind of speaks to this issue. If not, of course, we will step away. But I think we may be good to go on that part. Yeah. But once again, family, link is in the description, link is in the chat. Tap in, be part of the convo. If not, we may end up moving out tapping out, and of course, and calling it an evening. Let's see here. All right. What else did they discuss on the episode? So yeah, they discussed a number of issues, but all of it was really centered around this concept and idea of just raising children, right? That's really what it's centered around on the podcast episode. So yeah, it's just something once again to consider. But yeah, we tend to find, unfortunately, oftentimes what takes place is, they're seeking some type of male figure for their children. And that oftentimes, as the brother said, they're looking outside of their family, right? And that causes a number of problems, particularly putting the children at risk for physical or even sexual abuse. We find this all the time rather than look internally. And we talk about from an African-centered frame of reference, actually that responsibility goes to maybe what your brother or one of the oldest male relatives, so like to be that father figure, to be the father if the father is not present. So once again, something to consider. I had a sister once try to pull that game on me. Well, you should, from an African frame of reference, you're about community, so you should be willing to raise my child. And I said, well, no, it doesn't work that way, right? This is another example, family. I'm going to play this fair use, fair use, fair use. This is another example, once again, of a mother having a son, having issues of raising a boy, and being happy that somebody's taking interest in a child, and this is what ended up happening.
The church in like Black communities, the preacher is like the head man in charge.
God set it up and I'll go. God says go and I'll set it up.
You entrust him as his role that he is up trying to better you.
When you start listening to God, Satan will start speaking like God. Some of you are where you are now because God knows he's speaking to you, but the devil says, I'm not cutting you loose.
I believed he loved me. I believed that this man saw me and had a true desire to help.
Since the 90s, Pastor Ricky Rush has been a fixture in Dallas, drawing thousands every Sunday to his megachurch, the Inspiring Body of Christ, known as IBOC.
I was easy for him to take advantage of because I was green to the real world.
But in recent years, a growing number of former members have accused him of creating a culture of abuse, from violent beatings to sexual assault. Sisters Renee Phillips and Donna Fields say they were two of his victims.
He guided me to the table and unzipped his pants and started trying to insert me. And I was like, no, stop.
No words, just guiding me to the ground. And that's where, in that room, he raped me.
So,
come to us and say, this happened, and we'll say, we'll go to the authorities, and they clam up. Then we never hear from him again.
A lot of people are afraid of what he's going to do.
The sisters chased down every tip and contacted reporters from the Dallas Morning News, who investigated their claims and identified a dozen former church members who said they were sexually or physically abused by Rush. Many of these alleged victims describe Rush routinely beating them as children. One said he was 6 years old when Rush strapped him face down on a table, pulled down his pants, then thrashed his bare skin. Many did not want to be identified, saying they feared backlash from family members who still attend IBOC or from Rush himself. The paper also reported a 2011 civil court case against Rush, in which two teenage girls described being brutally beaten with a paddle, one so violently she blacked out. Rush quietly settled that case. But in a deposition obtained by Vice News, a witness testified that Rush felt he had the right to paddle the church's younger members, and that should anyone have an issue with it, that's what we have lawyers and insurance for. That witness also detailed hearing Rush beat a child behind closed doors. That child was Fields' youngest son, Marcus Bell Jr., who she'd raised in the IBOC community. Despite the abuse she says she experienced as a teenager, she'd stayed at the church and close to Rush.
I never saw him as a predator. I only saw him as a man that loved me. And I'm trying to teach my son to trust God and to be spiritually minded.
How did your son get to be involved with Rush?
He's always been there since he was a baby. He was like, this could be the next preacher because I have to be able to pass this church over to somebody. I kept all of his letters. Every last letter is in this box, years of correspondence of him writing me.
In 2018, Bell went to prison for robbery. There, he wrote dozens of letters home. It was in one of these messages that Fields learned what her son said Rush had done to him as a young boy.
One of the main people I loved, looked up to, used to beat my ass. And yeah, I got raped by the dude. I came out with no shoes on, bruises all on my back, humiliated in front of 100 men who didn't know the truth of what happened. After that, I became even more lost, depressed, suicidal. I was 12 or 13. At that moment, I changed. It's one thing when you do something to me, and then you hurt my sister.
This is what I'm talking about, family. You should be leery of someone who's taking an interest in your child. This is coming from someone who's a parent. You should be leery. Right, but this is what happens. Single mothers having a difficult time with my son. He needs to have a male role model. Instead of going to the father, you go to all these other individuals, and look what happens. More often than not, and I'm willing to say that, more often than not, this is what happens. The child ends up being physically or sexually abused. Yeah. Absolutely. So I am vehemently opposed to that. Yes, it is sad. Dub 3000. Yes, it is sad. Happens all the time. All the time. So anyone who knows me, I don't trust anyone around my children. You look at my kids funny, I might punch you. Listen, I'm just being honest with you because I know how people are. I know, and it's typically swept under the rug in our community. Yeah. Swept. I'm sorry, I can't even talk now. Swept under the rug. The worst thing you can do. Worst thing you can do. And I didn't even know this was an issue growing up because, I was protected by my parents. I had my dad and, I didn't even know that this was an issue until I had children of my own. Absolutely. So I push back against that. Oh, yeah, you need to have these male role models and get man involved in your life. You don't know what that man is about. You don't know what his private inhibitions are. And then you got your child along with this individual. Absolutely. Yeah, we could get to the part where people are defending it. Absolutely. We'll get to the part. Let me pull it up. Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So this is why I push back on this. I mean, this isn't conjecture or innuendo or even theoretical for me. I'm a parent. I don't trust anyone. Astronaut who was doing the abusing, the pastor was doing the physical and sexual, was engaged, the one engaging in the physical and sexual abuse, the pastor of the church in Dallas, Texas. Great question, astronaut.
One who remains anonymous, and Bell.
The Bible tells us that God's going to bless you without moving you. He'll bless you right in the presence of your enemies. God says, what I'll do is I will let those who came to seek your destruction, I will let them watch your resurrection.
So we've tried to get a hold of Rush several times over the past few months. We've contacted his church. No one has responded to us. We've reached out to his lawyers. They've refused to make him available. So we're trying to see if we can meet him in person, and we're heading over to his church where he's supposed to lead Sunday services this morning. We were hoping to speak with Pastor Rush. We've been trying to get a hold of him for a little while.
Stand over here, I'll get somebody to let you come
Okay,
out.
that'd be great. Thank you so much.
We are so grateful that you are here to experience IBOC.
We're hoping to, maybe observe a bit of the service and maybe see if there's time we could speak with him.
Okay, sure. We can do it without the cameras, though.
Okay.
What in regards to?
There's been a series of allegations against him over the past few years, and we were just hoping to see if he would be willing to speak with us.
Okay.
Comment on that at all.
Not on a Sunday. I mean, he's focused on the word today. I mean, that's long gone and past, and we're done with that. We moved on with that.
When presented with a detailed list of the allegations in this story, a lawyer for Rush once again declined our request for an interview and told Vice News via email, there will be no comment for Pastor Rush regarding these baseless, stale allegations. It is a shame that he has to once again face the specter of these scurrilous accusations being circulated. In August 2022, a grand jury decided there wasn't enough evidence to support bringing charges against Rush. Bell's case would not go to trial.
What can I say? Pastor is like the president of Dallas. I don't care who the mayor is in Dallas right now. I don't care who the police chief is in Dallas. He playing good chess. You know what I'm saying? He got very powerful pieces around him.
Unless new accusers whose claims fall within the statute of...
Okay, so, yeah. As I said it before, you should be leery of individuals who are taking an interest in your children. Leery. People know me. People know what I'm about. Someone comes and says, well, he's a pastor, he's a minister. I said, that don't mean anything to me. In fact, I'm more inclined to look at you funny style. This is a norm. Happens all the time. And oftentimes we find, matter of fact, the second leading cause of child sexual abuse are individuals linked to religious institutions. The second leading, when we talk about sexual abuse of children, are individuals who are linked and connected to religious institutions. I don't know what it is about religiosity and child sexual abuse. I don't know what it is, but these are real issues. So once again, this is something that's being pushed. Oh yeah, you got to get somebody involved with your child. You don't know who that person is or what they're about behind closed doors. You do not know that person's character. And oftentimes you're putting your child at risk. So what the young man said, what did he say? He said, I was 12 or 13 when this happened. He says, I became even more lost. And then he ended up leading him, engaging in a life of crime, and then serving time in prison. He's messed up in the head. Could you imagine a 12, 13-year-old boy being violated that way? It probably drove him halfway crazy. But go ahead and listen to the Obamas. Go ahead and listen to the Obamas if you want to. Talking about wolves in sheep's clothing. Wolves in sheep's clothing. Wolves in sheep's clothing. Be leery of people who are taking an interest in your child. But what did that sister say? She was a young lady. I didn't know how the world actually worked. I was naive. He took advantage of me. This is what happens. Swindlers, charlatans. That's why when we did the show, I believe it may have been yesterday or the day before, we talk about 19 keys. I only want to work with young people. Yeah, because they don't know how the world really works. So you can manipulate them. They're not privy to what the con that's being ran, the game that's being ran. They're not privy to or knowledgeable of the vicissitudes of life. So what? The African proverb states what? The ruin of a nation begins in the homes of its people. We talk about culture, and we know culture is far more than food and music, brothers and sisters, right? Culture, social organization, political organization, economic organization. Part of that social organization, we have to get back to organize a community properly socially, where we're having stable, functional, healthy family units to help prevent these type of things from taking place. Yeah, absolutely. Something to consider, family. Don't listen to these talking heads on podcasts. They don't know what the French toast they're talking about. Grooming is a real thing. It's a real issue. This man is 45, 46 years old, messing with a 12, 13-year-old boy. he should be castrated. Let's keep it a buck. He should be castrated. But this belief, oh, I just got to find some man to be there for my child. Let me see if I can pull this up on Law and Order. Law and Order SVU. SVU. And we know what happened at Penn State, Jerry Sandusky. All right. I think it was called Personal Files, but we'll get to it. Let me see. I'm going to pull this up here.
He's put hundreds of players in college and a dozen in the pro. Look at these stats. He's made more millionaires than Harvard Business School. I'm guest starring.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's just a snippet. So let's see if I can find this here. Because I know I purchased the actual episode. So I know I have it here. Here we go. Yeah, I purchased the episode. So we get to this family. Then, of course, we're going to cut out fair use, because I don't know if you all will be able to hear this because this, of course, is Law and Order. But please let me know. Put a 1 in the chat.
In the criminal justice system, sexually based offenses are considered
Can
especially
you all hear
heinous.
that? Put a 1 in the chat.
In New York City, the dedicated detectives who investigate these vicious felonies
Hold
are
on,
members of an
hold on.
elite squad known as the Special Victims Unit.
9 city titles, 4 state championships. Runs the Barons too, his summer league team. He's put hundreds of players in college and a dozen in the pros. Look at these fat cats. He's made more millionaires than Harvard Business School.
Prince Miller, his biggest star, couldn't be here tonight, but he sent Coach this solid gold key. Fits any gym in the country.
But more important than molding players, Coach has molded young lives. I'm not ashamed to say I was a stray dog and you rescued me.
It's our privilege to introduce the newest inductee to the Metro Basketball Hall of Fame. It's Coach Ray, baby.
Ray Masters.
Nello, Chris, all my friends. How do I begin to thank you?
Hall of Fame my ass. Boo! You should be in jail, man, not the Hall of Fame.
Security, get him out of here.
You're a punk. You're scum of the earth. You should be ashamed of yourself.
I guess I didn't give him enough playing time.
You know what you did. Get off me. Get off me.
So we get to the end here.
Get up, boys. Break it up. Let's go.
This is Mekhi Brooks. In this episode, he's a NBA MVP, and they get him to finally, the SVU detectives get him to finally admit what happened when he was a child. This is ripped from the headlines, family. This is based on, of course, what took place at Penn State University.
Prince, been too long.
Coach.
You know I shouldn't say this, but of all my players, you are always my favorite. Detective. Come on, Devon. Let's go. Cut off that baseline pass, huh? Come on. Let's go. Let's get those hands up. D-up.
So impressionable at that age.
Kid's got it. Smooth as silks, a natural leader out there.
I bet you see a little of yourself in Devon. All the talent in the world and a coach who can show him all the right moves. You know where Coach Ray is going on Friday? He's going to a tournament in California with Devon and all the Barons. You remember those, right? He's going to be doing bed checks and everything.
Prince Jamal Miller, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
As players, we put our trust in coaches at a very early age. They teach us the game. They help us through school. They give us advice on life. Sometimes they even hold our dreams in their hands. One coach betrayed that trust. Today I made an important decision. I told the grand jury the truth about Ray Masters. How he recruited me for the Baby Barons, his summer league team, when I was 10 years old. And how he started sexually abusing me on our first road trip and continued until I was 15. Why didn't I come forward then? Because I was just a little kid. And I was confused and ashamed. And I didn't want to jeopardize my chances at basketball. And I'm sorry that I kept my secret locked up for so long. Because many others may have been victimized after me.
What's wrong?
I hope that they come forward and tell their stories too, because I know they're hurting. But truth can be the best medicine. What we all have to remember is shame is not ours. It's his.
Powerful. Once again, family, this is my position. Be leery of someone who takes interest in your children. Until next time, y'all know what to do. This is Dr. Lumumba, out. Before you go, make sure you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you for supporting the channel. Remember, here at Lumumba Speaks, we always bet on black. Peace.